joining me for another edition of The Unleashing. I'm your host, Jared Beeler. Since the last video I put out about the rapture and the proximity of it, have you seen the events taking place around the world? This wars and rumors of wars has taken off like wildfire. It is truly unbelievable how crazy it's been getting out there. We are seeing absolutely nothing, and this North Korea stuff is just taking off. I said during the video that we might see the United States actually attack North Korea, but it would be more of a song and dance to get people's heads off of what's really going on, and that is the proximity of the rapture, and how the world does not want anybody to be paying attention to it. Don't think for a second that the elites of the world that are working with Lucifer don't know about this about to take place. They keep track of all this stuff. The signs in the heavens, everything like that. They got guys that work on this stuff all the time. They tell them, and they get advice from their father Lucifer. So they already know about it. They just don't want the main masses to know about it. The attack that we see going on over in North Korea right now, we are most likely going to see America do just that, and that is to take out North Korea. And there's a reason for that. During the 50s, when the Bilderberg first came up with their map of the 10 nations of the world, which we know that from Revelations, 10 kings that work with the Antichrist, they've had this worked out for several years. And even though the map has changed over time, a little bit different places, it's pretty much the same thing. The world is split up into 10 different regions, and there's going to be a leader over each one of those that works with the Antichrist. And Kim Jong-un is one of those places that isn't really part of the regime of the world. He does not fall into the category of these other groups that have already been bought off and are secretly working behind the shadows. So technically, he needs to be taken out of place because he throws a wrench in the cog of the operation. He's either going to be taken out and have somebody else put in there, or they're just going to work a way where they can keep him leashed off, and they're going to put like another leader that they control, maybe China or something like that, into North Korea, and that's what we're seeing happening right now. That's exactly what it looks like. But at the same time, don't let an event go to waste. While we're all looking over at North Korea, who's threatening with nukes, what's going on over in the Middle East? Who's watching Iran, who's told before that they have absolutely every intention of destroying Israel and wiping them off the map? We know that the Gog and Magog, Ezekiel 38 war, has to take place pretty soon, because it takes place right at the beginning or right before the tribulation starts. And there's some interesting stuff with that, because it says that nobody comes to help Israel, and right now we know that we would, especially with Trump in office, and how much he's stated that like we're friends with Israel, that we would totally be there to protect him. So what would keep that from happening? And the Bible says nobody's there, but God makes it that way, and he pulls Gog and Magog down and the countries around it to bring war to them, but to show the world that, hey, they're still his people, and he defends them, throws rocks out of the sky. It sounds like there's a nuclear exchange that goes on right there, but eventually Israel is protected, and the world's going to know that it's God that did it. If that happened during the beginning of the tribulation, well, Christians that would be defending or crying out like, hey, we got to do something about this, they're going to be taken out of the way. Or if perhaps the economy is so crashed that we can't afford to go over there and help them, some reason is going to keep us from doing that. But the same stuff that is building up over there. Erdogan in Turkey just declared himself basically be the leader or the Mahdi, and he's trying to declare himself to be God over in Turkey, and he might play a huge role in it, in attacking Israel and what's going to happen. But while we're all watching North Korea, that could be going on behind the scenes, and Trump, he's playing it smart, or at least the people that are advising him. We attacked Syria with those cruise missiles the other night on the 6th of April, and while we're doing that, Russia's, who's watching other parts of the world, like they start to go over to Syria again and pay attention to that, and then boom, we're right back over on the other side of the world with North Korea. We're jumping back and forth, not really showing our hand what's going on here. It's kind of sneaky, but you know what? It's all been prophesized before. This is going to happen. Wars and rumors of wars, and that's all we've been hearing about. it's just taken off like crazy, and it's only building up towards it. There's no sign of it slowing down at all. We're going to see this build right up into September, and I'm guessing that right after the rapture, the four horsemen come right out on the scene just like that. There's another reason why this has to happen in the fall. This might you might not think about it, but Feast of Atonement is appointed to the return of Christ, the second coming, when we come down after the rapture, 7 years at the end of the tribulation, and it is appointed to Feast of Atonement. God put his feast days as appointment times. Jesus fulfilled the first four, and along with Pentecost when the Holy Spirit came down, and the last three haven't been. Feast of Trumpets is appointed to the rapture, and Feast of Atonement is appointed to the return of Christ, setting up Judgment Day. Well, if we look at this, the tribulation will have to start in the fall, because to complete the circle of a full year, you start at one point and come back. You do that 7 times. It always has to come back to the same spot, and that's in the fall. Feast of Atonement is always in the fall. Well, we know that Daniel's timeline, when we put 1290, the second half of the tribulation, with 1260, which would be 3.5 years of a 360 day at the beginning of the tribulation, when you put those together, you add them up, it's 2,550 days. And only on certain years like this year do we have 2,550 days for a 7-year spread from Feast of Trumpets to Feast of Atonement. So it would really make it look like that the tribulation would have to start at least right around within a couple of days or two, or the exact day of September 23rd, maybe the same time that the rapture happens, which is interesting because some of the kids that have had visions of going to heaven that have made YouTube videos and talked about that, they say that we go up at the same time the bombs are coming down. And I never throw anything out when somebody has a vision like that. It's like, well, if it fits into it, well, that can be used later, or that might fill in some of the story or the blanks, and that's kind of interesting because everything's just winding up for this war. Another thing is the Pope came in to the United States, Cuba, and the UN to give a meeting of peace back in 2015. I thought that was interesting, the timing of it, because I've known about 5 years, the September 23rd sign, and I thought it was interesting that he was giving his speech at the UN over this spread of time from the 19th of September to, I believe it was the 27th, when he was visiting America and with Obama and stuff. They know these timelines, like I say, so for them to pick a certain time like that in September, it paves the way for an excuse later on in the future. If the Pope just randomly says, oh, I want to come have a speech right now about peace or bringing the world together, or something like that, or they do it, it kind of jumps out like, why would he be doing it now? But if they've already set it up in the past, like 2015, where he comes in, they can use that at a faster time, like let's say late July or August. Well, you know what, to commemorate this event that happened before, the Pope's also going to come speech, and we have Obama or Jared Kushner that want to talk to the world at the UN. They've already set it down. It's only a commemoration to that time it's already happened. They've pre-gamed it, basically, is what I'm saying. And that's kind of interesting that they picked that time, and I've never forgot about it. I always thought it was kind of interesting. Right in September over the 23rd, and we know that the Revelations 12 sign happens in 2017 around that same time. It's curious. I'll have to keep an eye on that. So those kinds of things can pave the way for later events that they know or they have planned, because they're going to want to get this started fast. And that is Satan who wants to get it started fast. He's got 7 years to try and get his guy in there, the Antichrist, that he's already got. And he's working behind the scenes right now, whether it's Obama or somebody else. He's got him. He's not going to want to waste any time to get his plan out, because he's just trying to take as many souls to hell as humanly possible. And it's going to happen too. Of course, at the same time, we know that lots of people will get saved during the tribulation when they realize that they did not know the Lord, and they come to Him. And that's a great thing, but it's just going to be, it's an absolutely terrible time. Jacob's trouble, the tribulation, it's going to be hell on earth. And it's not going to be a good time at all. Since the rapture video and the false prophet and Antichrist video, some more stuff has come to light about possible Antichrist character. It's Jared Kushner. He's a peculiar guy, and it's very interesting that he got that 666 on Fifth Avenue, and he spent all that money on it. It's pretty interesting that he'd want to do something like that. Also, him being Jewish. It's an invite. It's basically like undercover. If he was going to set up a peace deal, they would definitely be more interested in listening to him, and being Trump's advisor when Trump made that statement that if anybody could put a peace deal together in the Middle East, it would be Jared Kushner.
He is so great. If you can't produce peace in the Middle East, nobody can. okay? All my life, I've been hearing that's the toughest deal in the world to make. And I've seen it. But I have a feeling that Jared is going to do a great job. I have a feeling he's going to do a great job.
That's extremely suspicious stuff. Just as suspicious as when I was saying, well, I don't know if I can trust Trump at this time. If there was like the 80s or the 90s and all these signs weren't happening, it'd be one thing. But when I see the end lining up with the rapture and the start of the tribulation, and people start coming on the scene that are too good to be true, that's like a red flag for me. I have to be cautious of them because I know that that's how the Antichrist comes in, with lying wonders and deceitfulness. And when they say peace and safety, sudden destruction comes right away. This Jared Kushner guy, I also have heard that in 2008 or 7, somebody came forward, an Illuminati whistleblower, and they said they had a new guy in charge. And it was a young guy around 27, 28 at the time, and he'd taken over as head of the Illuminati, and they had big plans for him or whatever, and his name was Jared Kushner. If this story is true, that really paints a red flag on this guy, not to mention his connections with George Soros and stuff like that. This Antichrist, when he makes his deal, he might not be king of the world just yet, or a leader figure. He might be somebody that's in the shadows, and a prince figure, I mean, if somebody is looking at that from a vision from the past, looking at like somebody like Trump that might look like a king if he's a leader in a spot, and to see Jared Kushner under him as like a son-in-law would put him in a prince position. So that's another interesting thing. Another thing is Obama. He might be too obvious to be the Antichrist. And he might not even know it. He might be a shill for Satan, and he might not even know that he is. He might be promised to be the Antichrist. Like I say, nobody's ever wanted to be that bad other than Obama. The guy just wants to be a piece of crap. And he's fulfilled it in tons of different ways. But it might be on purpose that he's done all those things just so he looks like it. And at the end, Satan comes in, cuts him, and goes, no, actually I have another guy. It was just so everybody was looking at you while I snuck somebody in the back door. You got to realize, I mean, this is also on a spiritual level. So not everything's out in the open. Things are working behind the scenes. And Satan's the one that's leading this operation with the worlds and also his fallen angels. And demon spirits, Raphaim, Nephilim, they're also working behind the scenes too on all these things, and it's all going to come to pass. But it's not everything's face value. Even the guys that work for them, that are a part of the world governments and stuff like that, they think that they're getting cut out with the deal. But it's just like Sauron on Lord of the Rings. I mean, he has no allies. He's going to betray him eventually, and they go to the same place, hell. And they're not going to get any deal. They're not going to have a war against God. God's going to absolutely put a stop to this with a rod of iron. You can't fight God. All the missiles and nukes in the world, I mean, nothing. I mean, you just can wave them away. It's absolutely nothing. So it's really stupid on their part, but they're deceived and they love evil. And that's why God says in Thessalonians that he will let them have strong delusions because they loved sin. They wanted it. And he allows them to have it, and so that they can take it, everything that they want, and they don't know the truth, and they're blinded, and they end up going to hell, you know. But that's on them for their decision. But we're not blind to it. We know exactly what's going on, and it's getting more obvious. And it's just crazy though how much it's picking up. It truly is. It's amazing. But at the same time, when I see these wars and rumors of war and threatening with nukes and things, you know, that only gives me more encouragement. It only points more to what I'm saying is real, that those that are paying attention and also who know, you out there that have seen the signs and are like, wow, the rapture actually looks like it's getting close. This is only putting an absolute positive stamp on it. This is really going to happen. And every time I see it, it only encourages me more. Instead of, I'm not afraid or anything, I mean, it just gives me more encouragement to know that, wow, Jesus is really coming back for us. He's going to get us out of here. And all these signs are pointing to it, and that is awesome encouragement. So instead of being down, I'm actually more encouraged the more I hear of wars and rumors of wars. Now, we don't know what's going to happen with the U.S. exactly. Could we get saved all the way up until the tribulation starts? Yeah, possibly. But at the same time, we might not. We might actually see some bombs hit here in America. I mean, we just don't know about it. Other countries, you know, they haven't been saved from this at all. Christians are being getting persecuted and killed all over the world. So we could see some stuff, and it's still a few months away from September. So I mean, it's hard to say what's going to happen with that, but everything's still lining up for it. I definitely encourage you to be paying attention to what's going on over in the Middle East and with Damascus and Israel, and anything like that that looks like something could be happening while we're paying attention in North Korea. Another thing is, though, it could take off right at the start. This lineup of the Gog and Magog could be when the second horseman comes out, the red horse, and it's war, and it might be the first part of that. And the reason why is because it says that they burn their weapons for 7 years. So I've always believed that it would happen before the tribulation, but it could happen right at the start and line up with Jacob's trouble, 7 years exactly. We don't know, but the stuff is definitely coming soon. Damascus getting hit the other day by Israel, that's more stuff. I mean, and it says that it gets taken out, and we know that it's already been pretty much destroyed from all the conflict and stuff that's going on there, but it can definitely get a lot more, so we'll see what happens, you know. But Gog and Magog is one of the things to be watching out for, an attack from Russia, Iran, maybe Turkey, and other countries around surrounding Israel, where they come in there and try to destroy them, but it doesn't happen. I think that might happen a little bit later, though, because it says nobody will help them out. So we're either going to be, our hands are tied in a conflict with North Korea, and then Russia and Iran chance to go down into Israel. That's one possibility. It's also a good cover, because if these guys in charge, Donald Trump and others, are actually secretly just working behind the scenes to make everything look like it's okay, they don't want to help Israel. It's all part of another agenda, and they need an excuse on the world front so that their cover isn't blowing. So to have a war with North Korea would be like the perfect time where they say, okay, Russia, Iran, now go in there and attack Israel, and it'll look like we can't help them out because we're actually in war with North Korea right now. So that's another possibility too. It's hard to say what's happening with that, but time will tell, and it's only picking up more. So well, like I say, when you see these things happen, and there's a lot of fear out there, you know, people don't know what's going to happen, and these are scary times and stuff like that, I just encourage you to trust in Jesus more than ever, because that's really the only way out. It's up. It's up. That's the only way we're going to get out of this. These events are going to take place. It's going to be fulfilled just like it was promised. This is on a timeline, 2,000 years since Jesus came here, and it's being fulfilled, and the signs are in the heavens and everything else, and all the things that are taking place, including the last pope from the Malachi prophecy that we know is the false prophet, along with the Revelation 12 sign, and a number of other events like the economy about to crash worldwide, and World War III, and those being just tied together so much. And we know that those are the events that happen right when the tribulation starts. It's like, wow, it's all really coming to it, and it's amazing. So when you see these things happen, let that, instead of being fear, let that be encouragement for everybody out there who might be a little bit scared, to know that it's going to happen here soon. And we're going to be out of here. We're going to go see. We're going to be with the Lord in heaven, and it's going to be so amazing. It's going to blow your mind. It's going to be the best thing you could possibly ever hope for. But we know all we can do right now is just pray and keep our eye on everything, what's going on, and tell our loved ones and friends about these things that are going on, and maybe point them to stuff. All those who have shared the Rapture video, I really appreciate it. It's had nothing but good feedback, and that's really awesome. I thank everybody for doing that, and it's really good. It encourages me a lot to keep talking about this stuff, and I wasn't exactly sure how I was eventually going to do this. People have told me for a while I need to make videos, and I didn't know exactly how I wanted to do it at first, but it was God that was really pushing on me to talk about the rapture, and I was like, God, you know this has 100% fail rate. Anybody who's ever talked about it before, it's like, I gotta have some real evidence here that's pointing to this, and he just kept showing me more and more and more, and I'm just like, God, I'm like, I can't do this unless I know that you really want me to. I don't want to lead anybody or give them false hope or anything like that. So, and it wasn't until last November in 2016, when I finally got my last bit of evidence, and I was like, all right, I'll do it. But, you know, you got to help me out with this, because I've never made videos or anything like that before. I'm not really sure. And my buddy Dustin, I thank him. He really helped me out starting some videos. And we're separated now. I'm back in Colorado for the time, so I have a new camera and things like that. So I'll be shooting solo for a while. But I really appreciate his help getting it started and getting that Rapture video out there. And hopefully it's helped a lot of people, and you guys have got to share it. And those that have shared, I really appreciate that a lot. And it's really great. You're only helping out more people, and hopefully that get saved and know the truth, and can turn to the Lord in time before this all goes down, so we can all get out of here together. And that's truly a blessing. So, but I wanted to. It's been a few weeks since I've been able to put out a video or anything like that, and I wanted to talk about some of the stuff that's happened since the last one, and talk about these wars and rumors of wars, and how much it's taken off, because it really has, and try and give a little bit of encouragement on that, and also talk about some interesting things that have come to light since that time. Like I say, Jared Kushner, he's very suspicious, and we don't know exactly who this Antichrist is going to be yet. We know the false prophet is the Pope. He's fulfilling it perfectly. Absolutely perfectly. And it's going to come from the Vatican, and that's exactly what we see happening there with this one world religion. But the Antichrist, he's still kind of in the shadows, and we're not sure exactly who he is. He's not totally revealed until we're taken out. But it's also good to pay attention to guys, so you can warn people or be like, hey, just in case, because your warning might save somebody who maybe doesn't know it doesn't get raptured, but remembers you saying to watch out for a certain person, and because of that they end up finding out later, hey, that's the Antichrist, and wow, this is all real, and get saved in the process. So it's very important to do that. And but these are just a few things I wanted to go over and keep people up to date. I'm going to try and get some more videos out whenever I see anything interesting that's fulfilling the scriptures and taking place right now, where I can give my input on some of this stuff, and I'm going to do that from now on. So hopefully I can get some more out here pretty soon, and I thank you for joining me on the Unleashing, and we'll see you next time. Thanks a lot. Bye.